Insider presents Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Lachlan. We cover entertainment, news, and tech with special guest appearances. So sit back and enjoy as we geek out together right now.
Hello, everybody. This is a special afternoon episode of Geek Speak. I'm Meredith Lachlan, and today I have Glenn B. Fleming. He's an artist, author, cartoonist, painter, filmmaker, publisher, research enthusiast, and so much more. Let me drop the card here so you can say hello.
Hi there, Meredith. Are you all right? Thanks for having me on the
for an intro.
What a fantastic, that's the best intro I've ever had. That was absolutely brilliant. I'll have to use that myself.
Well, you have got so many things on Amazon that I almost don't know where to start. But we have a large comic book community.
Right.
So why don't we go with Comics Unlimited? What are you doing over there? And what is it?
It's a magazine about comics, and it's something that I've been wanting to do for quite a few years now. Back in the aughts, to the late aughts, I published another magazine called Crikey, which was about British comics, and that did really well until I put it into Borders, and Borders went down and took the magazine with it and all my money and everything like that. So it's taken me a bit of time to recover from that, really. But I put it out. It's got the second issue is out now. It's bi-monthly. It's 100 pages in full colour, and you can get that on Amazon as well. But what I thought I'd do, rather than revisit Crikey and British comics, I thought that I'd expand and do worldwide. So we've got Spider-Man in there, Captain America, and what have you, this kind of thing. But that's what I'm doing at the moment, publishing that, apart from writing other books.
Well, I've been in the newspaper business, and because of that, I've actually seen like a newspaper operated magazine, and I know people who are in the publishing industry. That's not an easy task to do,
no.
Because there's so much that's involved. I mean, between maybe trying to sell ad space, so you're an advertiser, a marketer, the layout.
Yeah. Well,
content creator.
One of the things that sort of gets to me every day is that I don't write as many articles as I want to, because I'm the one who designs the book, puts it together, puts it out there, and does all the rest of it. So I find it difficult to find the time to actually write any articles. I do put a few in, but I rely on other people to do that for me. But it's been well received so far, but mainly in England, I'm surprised to say, because it's most of the content is probably United States based. I'm going to have a word with my marketing department, which is me, about putting it further into the States, which is one of the reasons why I'm talking to you now. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it'll pick up some sales from this,
Oh, that'd be wonderful. And that can be found on Amazon, and we'll share that out when Geek Insider shares the article. But the other thing is, I want to put up this overlay really quickly.
Okay.
This is Jack Kirby, Variations on a Theme. And I see, the house that Jack built and things. So what is your connection with Jack Kirby?
Well, that goes back obviously a while. He's been dead a while, but I went to see him a couple of times, and I went to see him in 1988 and 1991. I'm a big fan of his, as is most people, and it was a dream come true to actually meet him and go to his house and meet his wife, who's just the most gorgeous woman you've ever seen. What a fantastic woman she is. And so I filmed that, and I produced a documentary a few years ago to mark Jack's 100th birthday of 2017. I produced an hour-long documentary on that, and had a premiere in a place called Oldham near me in the library. 40 invited guests on a big screen. I don't know whether you've seen your face on a screen 20 foot high, but it's quite unnerving when people are there
I
watching.
think I might be taken aback a little bit.
Yeah,
This is
it's like,
bad
oh,
enough.
wow. Do I look as bad as that? Every line's on there. And but with Jack Kirby, what it is I suppose he was a childhood hero of mine, and I got to meet him and film him and talk to him for a long time when I went around to his house. And then a couple of years ago, I started to put together that magazine you just showed there, which has got different articles in from different people, and it's got my story of meeting him in there. Lots of photographs, lots of artwork, and that's on Amazon too, and it's doing all right. Yeah, that one's doing all right. That was quite an incredible thing to do, to meet him, to go all that way and meet him. And it's all detailed in the documentary and in the book what happened. He spoke about things, and he's just a great bloke. You don't need to go with questions. Just let him speak, because he likes to speak, or he did like to speak. And but he's really funny, and he's really, really, really a great bloke,
Well, but how did that happen? Because a lot of people, when they meet maybe their hero or somebody they really look up to, it's not like you get an automatic invitation to dinner. Or do you?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask other people that one. But what I did, the story is that I went on holiday to Barbados, and I met these two Americans while I was there, and they lived in California. So we got quite friendly. Well, very friendly, because they were getting married, and I was Bob's best man. So that's how well we got on. And so anyway, I mentioned they lived in California, and now California is a big place. And I remembered from when a long time ago now, in the 70s, Jack had moved to California and lived in a place called Thousand Oaks. And I just was doing comics at the time, and so Kirby was in my head. And I just mentioned, do you know a place called Thousand Oaks? And they said, yeah, it's about an hour away, because everywhere's an hour away in America. The people, I don't know how they work that one out, but it's an hour away. Anyway, so they went home, and I thought it was just one of those sort of holiday friendships, Anyway, when I got back, there was a letter, and it was from Suzanne, the girl who was married Bob. And she said, oh, we'll have to get together. It was great to see you, blah, blah, blah. And she said, and Jack Kirby says hello. So I carried on reading this letter, and what she said, this is Jack Kirby's telephone number, and he'd like you to ring him. So I'm looking at this number for weeks and thinking, no, this is not Jack Kirby.
It's not the Jack Kirby. It's got to be another one in the world.
Yeah. So anyway, I rang this number, and it was. And I spoke with Roz, and then Jack Kirby came on, and all of a sudden, this guy's on the phone, my hero's on the phone, and I just couldn't speak to him, But anyway, I said to him, I'm coming over to the States next year, which was 1988, and could I come and see him? And he said, yeah. And he said to me, who are you coming with? I think he thought I was about 10, So I said, well, I'm coming with my then partner. And so we went over, excuse me, and we went out there, and Bob's the kind of person who, when he's done something, the second he's done it, he needs to go somewhere else. So he got us to the house, and he said, oh, we'll come back in an hour. And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm leaving this house in an hour unless they tell me I've got to go. I've not come all this way for an hour. Anyway, when he said this, Roz said, oh, no, we've got lunch. So we went in, 6 of us, and had lunch there. And I couldn't speak. And Jack he knew this. And I just couldn't, I was looking at him, I just couldn't say anything. I was 33 at the time, I just couldn't, I wasn't a kid, I couldn't speak. And he kept saying to me, who are you? What are you doing here? This kind of thing. You know what I mean? Anyway, we went through to his studio and so opened artwork, and which was an incredible thing because he'd just taken delivery of a lot of packages from DC and Marvel at that point of his original artwork. And Ross said, you can open some if you want. And I said, really? And I pulled out these pages from New Gods. So another package was a Rawhide Kid and that sort of stuff. And he'd not seen these things since 1961 or something, since he put them in the envelope to go to the office, And there he was, and he let me open them, and I couldn't believe it. And I was opening all this stuff. There was some fantastic 4 pages in there. It was amazing. I was holding this art, and he'd not seen it. And, he was just watching me. And I said, they had this big pile. And Roz said, it's going to take us ages to get through this. I said, well, I'll stay. You feed me and I'll stay, and I meant it. She knew I meant it as well, but obviously that wasn't going to work. But that's, I just couldn't believe that he would let a total stranger who he'd just been sitting with for 2 hours open this stuff from his work from years ago. But it's just a job to him, I think. He's not really bothered about things like that. But I wouldn't let somebody I'd met for an hour open my stuff from, this was 25 years ago at that point, you know what I mean? But they were just really nice people. I didn't want to leave, I didn't want to go. Anyway, I said to them, when I was going, I said, I want to come back. And Jack said, yeah, you said you will come back. And I did. And I went back 3 years later. And that's when I filmed him in his studio. That's what I made the documentary about. So the documentary isn't necessarily about Jack Kirby. It's about my meeting him. He's obviously in it, but it's my journey to him rather than about him. I don't say he drew this then or anything like that. It's just, and you just see him talking and you realize that because he's from the Lower East Side in New York and you could tell he's tough. He was only about 5'2", and he's really tough guy. And you can see Ben Grimm in him, the way he, can't talk like that. He's got this really rough New York voice. And it was just amazing. It was an amazing experience.
Well, that was a really nice segue, because I was actually going to ask you about the documentary. You had mentioned before, because I've seen a couple of your other interviews, where this was about your meeting with him. Some of this footage, though, is this things from his personal archive? Was it something that you were able to film while you were visiting with him?
Yeah, the first time I went, I took a camcorder and it broke. And I've got about 5 minutes of film from the first meeting, which isn't on the documentary, but I'm just doing a director's cut, a final cut of it, and all that stuff will be on. Oh. The second time I went, I got which I knew was a more reliable camcorder. And the footage on the film, on the documentary, is I'm in it, obviously, and he's in it. There's none of his stuff on it. There's my photographs, things like everything to do with it is from my personal sort of archive, as it were. I didn't want to run into copyright things, showing pages and things like that, and getting permission. So everything on it is mine. So it's my journey. It's called Jack Kirby, A Personal Journey, and it's my journey to him.
Now, you said that there's a director's cut that's coming. Are you still editing that? When can we expect to see that?
It'll be in the new year now, but I'm putting subtitles on it and all this kind of thing, because I've had a few requests for subtitles, English subtitles. I know you can get French and Spanish, but but there's I'm putting on it a couple of more photographs that I've discovered, a bit more film, and I've also put putting on the back of it. We had a Q&A after the premiere of about 30 minutes with, there's obviously myself and some other artists and editors on that. And there were 4 of us on a panel answering questions and talking generally about Kirby's work, and then tagging that on the end of it as well. So I think it's about coming in about 2 hours now. So, but that'll be in the new year.
Mm-hmm. So, this is Geek Insider, and I love getting inside the geek. I love Genesis stories. And you have a pretty broad resume as far as, as I said earlier, you're a writer, you're a photographer, you travel, you're a filmmaker, all of these things. As young Glenn, when most, maybe boys are thinking, oh, I'm going to be a firefighter or something like that. When you were younger, did you know that you were going to be on this more creative journey, or what was that like for you? And how? What were the influences that you had, and support, I guess?
Well, when I was young, I was probably like all young lads. I wanted to be an astronaut, and go to the moon and things like that. And I still want to do that. But yeah, I've always been able to draw, and it's just about the only thing I can do really is draw. I used to draw on anything, on the walls and whatever you want, anywhere, get in trouble and all this kind of stuff. And then later, obviously, I'm drawing things in Holly's book, But yeah, my influences were we had the Beano, we had what I call. These are proper comics. These the cartoony things, and I didn't so much like the cartoon work. Didn't so much like the cartoon stories, but I enjoyed the artwork. And I used to copy them and things like that. But when I was 10, have you heard of Jerry Anderson and Thunderbirds? The puppet shows. Never heard of the puppet shows, Thunderbirds?
If I did, it's a blank.
Right. Well, there's a.
By the way, I've lost a lot of stuff from my youth. So
all right. Okay.
Making room for the next generation stuff. So.
Well, there was a guy called Jerry Anderson, and he created these puppet series called Thunderbirds and Stingray and Fireball XL5, and these things just blew me away, and I was just a kid. Anyway, he produced a magazine with them in, and the art in them is superb. It was painted artwork by people. I don't know whether you've heard of these people, Frank Bellamy and Ron Embleton, and these people, these top British artists. And what they did was they made the characters real, so they didn't look like the marionettes. They were real people, And I used to look at those. And then one day, my elder brother Martin came home with Strange Tales, and it had Nick Fury in it, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And the layouts were by Kirby, but John Severin drew it. And then he brought home a Mad magazine, and John Severin used to draw in Mad magazine as well. So then I was exposed to people like Mort Drucker in Mad and those people. And I just thought these were fantastic, And so I don't know whether you've seen the older comics from that time, but on page 4, there was always an advert, and there was it'd show you the Fantastic Four collector's item classics and other magazines. So I said to my brother, because he had the money, get these magazines, are they in the store? And he said yeah. So he comes home with all these comics, and that's how I got into Kirby and Buscema and Stanley and all these kind of people producing them. And I've still got some of the earliest artwork I still have when I was 14. It's some comics that I drew myself.
Wow, you still have some of them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not bad, really. Even though I say it myself, they're all right for a 14-year-old, I think. And so I was creating characters and writing them and colouring them in and this kind of thing. And it went from there. And then I left school really early for one reason or another. And anyway, ended up going to art college when I was 17. And probably went into the wrong stream. I went into graphic design, and I sort of became a graphic designer. So along my career, I've mainly done graphic design, which is why I can design the pages of the magazines and things, because I design my books as well. I don't just throw them. I design everything in them and do illustrations in them and things like that. And so that's where I went with it. So I've always been in the art world. Then I got into illustration and painting, and then photography and cinematography and that kind of thing. I'm also at the moment writing 2 plays that I'm hoping to do something with. So, but this past 10 years, writing's really taken over. I'm doing less drawing, and I'm not really happy about that.
well, you know what? We're going to take a little break, and when we get back, I want to hear about that. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Check it out. MobileEdge.com has award-winning products with innovative features and contemporary, edgy designs that empower you to look sharp and travel smart with your mobile tech. Your beloved, not to mention expensive gaming gear and mobile tech devices are an extension of you, so give them the protection and style they deserve wherever you go. Find them at MobileEdge.com and protect your tech with Mobile Edge. Bring it on. Hey Geek Insiders, Mobile Edge has a special coupon code for our dedicated listeners. Get 25% off your Mobile Edge gear using coupon code GEEK25. That's GEEK25. Geek out.
And welcome back, listeners. This is Meredith Lochran with Geek Speak, and I am with Glenn B. Fleming. So, before our break, you were saying something about being a playwright. Now, on top of this magazine that you're putting out, plus trying to write, where do you find the time for that? And then you said that you had this frustration that you're not illustrating.
Yeah.
First of all, where do you find the energy to do all of this?
Well, I don't know. That's probably from God or something. I don't know. But I don't sleep a lot. I find it difficult sleeping. So I've got a lot of time in the night. Writing's good in the night time because there's no other distractions and stuff like that. I mean, take for example, where I went. What day is it now? Tuesday, Sunday night. Went to bed. Had about an hour. Woke up after an hour. Lay there for 2 hours. Thought this is ridiculous, and got up, and it was 3 o'clock. When I got up, so I don't sleep very well. But anyway, it is good because it gives me more time to do stuff. But doing the drawing is it's different concentration. I like to finish things off. You see, so if I'm drawing, I like to finish it. I can't come back in 3 days to it really. So if I'm penciling a page of a comic or something, I will pencil all the page before I stop. And then I'll ink all the page before I stop, and then I'll colour all the page before I stop. I do go back to things, of course, but I like to get things done. So I don't start doing drawings in the middle of the night because it's the wrong time for me. I need to finish it because I do portraits. I just did. You showed it at the beginning, that book, 8 Seconds. That was a book I wrote last year about my dad, who was a paratrooper on D-Day, and this year I think I've done portraits for 5 of his colleagues, pencil portraits, that kind of thing. So those take me a while to do. So, but I like to start and finish it. I've always found that if you do something like a drawing, you're in some kind of a zone with it. When you come back, that you're not there. It's a different drawing. You see what I mean? So if I'm doing a portrait, I would finish it. It might not be any good, but I'd finish it.
I understand that, but I also call myself a little obsessive compulsive as well. So.
Right. Well, there you go.
It's kind of funny because I tell my mother-in-law and we share this love of reading, and I told her I have a reading problem. She says, "Oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. What is it?" I said, "I have to read from cover to cover, which means I don't sleep in between. I take it in the bathroom with me. I don't go to sleep until it's done. I mean, the Harry Potter, that thick. I read it in 3 days, and I did not sleep because that's how obsessive I am with it. As exhausted as I am, I'll put it down. Oh my gosh, I need sleep. No, I have to know what happens next. And so that's my reading problem. And
I read several books at the same time, not literally at the same time, but I flit to and from the book.
She does that too. I don't understand how you do that. I can't. I would go absolutely bonkers.
Well, I do that with my writing as well, because I'm also writing a book now about the 1977, which was a really, really terrible year for me. And I'm putting it down in a book, but I'm also writing my plays, and I'm also writing 2 science fiction novels at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I can. So, I don't have to finish that. I can flit about with that one.
Okay, I have to know a little bit about 1977 because it can't be disco that did it to you.
No, it was. Well, my dad left home. Just stuff like that, just personal stuff, all that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, I'll put it down. I'm not sure whether I'll actually publish it, but I'm putting it down.
There's something about writing that's very therapeutic. There are a lot of things that I've written down, and I've actually burned so nobody else can read them either.
Right. Well, I've written things that people shouldn't see, so I don't think that'll be. But I started writing. This will sound really vain now. I started writing my autobiography, and thinking, well, when I'm really famous, it'll be done. When people ask me if it'll be done, but I've written. I think it's 75,000 words on that, which is basically a novel and I'm not yet 25 in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a good memory. I can remember things, and it's just it's very therapeutic, like you say, to get it out. But there are parts of it that just can't be seen. They're in it, but they won't be in it if I publish it.
Right.
Various reasons, but they won't be in there. But I think like you said, getting it out of you, I think is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing. More people should do it. They don't have to think about publishing. Just write. Because I always find that when I write, if I'm in a situation where I'm going to write something, I never write less than 1,500, 2,000 words. I can't write 15 words, So I've been writing this 1977 on and off only a few weeks now, and I've already done 12,000 words on it, and I probably haven't put 3 days in it because it just comes out. The only thing that slows me down is me typing. I can type pretty fast, but if I could type faster, I'd get more out. So it's just a different ways people work. I understand that Stephen King, he's pretty good. He writes every day except Christmas Day, apparently. But what he writes, I don't know. And how long he writes for, I don't know. He just does it. So I would imagine he's got a fantastic amount of archive that nobody will ever see because it's not to do with anything. And I would imagine that it just opens him up to get the story from. I don't know, but it would be interesting to see it. But imagine reading through that. It'd take you all your life to read through it, wouldn't it, if he's doing that every day?
Oh, sure. Everybody, there are some people who say I can't write, and I reject that wholeheartedly because it's like anything. Anybody can write. Anybody can take photographs. Anybody can make a movie. Anybody can sing. You might not be able to do it well. You might not be a paid professional, but have the capacity to do that. And if it's something that is calling to you because maybe you have a thought in your head or a tune in your head, to put it out there, you don't have to share it, but that process of creating is just so liberating for me personally. And again, like I said earlier, it's a lot of the times when I write, it's therapeutic. And only recently, now I'm almost 50, but only recently have I been able to write quite honestly, where it might bring up memories, and I'll have tears in my eyes. I'll be crying as I write it, and I second guess whether or not I can share it. So I would say to you, there are a lot of things, in our lives. For me is the loss of my father. He was my best friend. To memories of that, even photographs are sometimes painful to see. I think for me, I've gotten to a point where I said, when I share my grief, I think it helps other people. And there are a lot of people who say, I'm not ready to do that. And I can respect that as well, because those are hard places to deal with. Having said that, a lot of common themes with guests that I have on. Many times they have those kind of troubles, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety. I think it's part of it. Maybe it comes hand in hand with the creative brain. Is that something that you often deal with or struggle with?
Yeah, there are some times when I can't do a particular thing, but this is why I'm sort of grateful that thankful that I've got different things on the go, because if I think I'll do some drawing today and it's not there, I won't sit there for 4 hours. I'll write something, and then sometimes I can come back. Or if I'm, this is what I do. This is why I work on different projects all the time, because I don't want to be doing one project. But some people can't do that, and that's fine too. They probably get their project finished before I do. But having said that, I get 4 finished at the same time. So it's a different process, and there's no handle on it really. I don't think. It's like you're saying before about singing. I don't think everybody can sing, because I've been singing every day for 60 years, and I'm still not Marvin Gaye. And he was sounding like that when he was 15. You know, how much practice did Stevie Wonder put in before he was number one when he was 11?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I think there's this thing called talent floating around somewhere. You know?
Yeah, there is that. And I did say that everybody can, they just might not do it well.
Yeah. You know, it's like I said about I would say this about footballers, you know, soccer players. Why is it that there are really bad ones and really, really good ones, and they all train the same? They all practice, and it's because some just have the more skillful and whatever. And that applies to writing and drawing and singing and driving a Formula One racing car. You know, some people can do it better than others, and that's the way it should be. Because if we could all do the same thing, nothing would be outstanding, would it? You know, if we could all sing like Marvin Gaye, there'd be no point, would there? If you like Marvin Gaye.
My goodness. Tell us a little bit. Well, before I get to your travels, there was something that you told me before we went live about the 12-year-old entrepreneur. Tell us about
right. When I was 12, because I could draw, I used to get given things in class to draw because I could draw, which was great for me, you know, because I'd get taken out of classes and have to draw something for somebody somewhere else, which was great. So I'd get out of maths because I can't do maths, and I'd be drawing something somewhere else. Anyway, the thing you're referring to was in the schoolyard, I would draw Spider-Man, just his head, you know, Thor, the Hulk, on people's hands in a biro and charge them a penny. And I was doing 10 or 12 of these every break time, you know. So I was earning quite a bit of money for a 12-year-old. And and of course, people wash their hands, and so they'd come back and need another one drawing, and now I'd get another penny, you see. But the teachers stopped me doing it because they weren't happy with this young entrepreneur making, you know, £1 a week, as it was, or whatever it was, which was a lot of money to me in those days.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. They were buying the candy and the pop.
It bought me a lot of Marvel comics for a while, but they stopped me doing it. I thought that was really mean, you know what I mean?
I know, how dare they? My goodness. And then from scribbling on hands to scribbling in books.
Yeah.
Books that aren't
Well,
books that aren't yours. About this funny little man that's on every page.
Yeah, I've got this character called Hatch. He's a little guy, a little alien guy, and he lives on an asteroid all on his own out in the space somewhere. And it's his adventures, and I've published one volume of that. Anyway, my granddaughter Holly, she's 5, and she had a book. I went round to their house. This is before the COVID thing, and she had a book, and it was about zoo animals, and it was line drawings of zoo animals. So there's all these pages of unicorns. I know they're not real, but unicorns and you know, elephants and rhinos and giraffes. So she showed me, see. So I'm looking at this book, and she was colouring in something else, and I picked up the pencil, and I drew Hatch riding these giraffe and rhinos and all this kind of thing. Anyway, she mustn't have seen it, because only the other week, because I mean, how long has this COVID thing been going on? It's 6 months, isn't it? So she's picked up this book, and her dad rang his mum, my wife, my stepson, and she told her daddy to tell that Glenn off because he's drawn that little man in her book. And she told me off for drawing that little man, because kids are great, aren't they? She's great. But all she ever does is, when she sees me, is tell me off about something. It's my job to be told off. But she's great. You know what I mean? I've not seen her for ages. I think we've seen them twice maybe, and since all this came down, and she's different now. She's different. She's taller, and she's even more confident than she was before. You know, she's great. She'll be punching me next, you know, sort of telling me.
They sprout up really fast at that age. They really do.
They do, yeah.
You know, and it's kind of funny that you're drawing in books. I used to get my butt spanked for drawing in books when I was younger.
Well, when we were at school, they I don't know whether it's because of me. I don't think it was because of me, but they gave us this thing, what we called a rough book. And it was just an empty exercise book, you know, with lines on. and you could do what you wanted in it. Mine was just full of cartoons, because my books before that, they were full of cartoons, and these were the books that I handed in to be marked, So I don't think it was they didn't base it on me. But I was the only person in the class who used to ask for another rough book because I'd filled it up, and I don't have those. I wish I had them now. They'd be really good to look at, see what I was doing and, all that kind of thing. But it was good. It was good.
Well, before we take our next break, I just want to give a shout out to Holly. Save that book. I'm sure it's a collectible.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this break.
Okay.
Now, every Sunday morning, longtime independent comics creator and Indie Volt podcaster Randy Zimmerman hosts a discussion on the lighter side of comics, the more whimsical and fun comics out there on the Sunday Funnies. That's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday on Indie Volt, indievolt.com, the Indie Volt YouTube channel, and the usual Indie Volt sites on Facebook. Listen in, won't you? Participate in the chat. Let's have some fun. See you there.
Back. This is Geek Speak, and I am sitting with Glenn B. Fleming. He is an author, a poet, a filmmaker, a screenwriter, a playwright, and I think I saw something on his profile that said an astronaut. What?
Yeah, there's a great story about. Well, we're all astronauts, really, because we're all in a spaceship, really. But about 20 years ago, I went to Florida, and I went to Cape Canaveral to the NASA thing, and I went to the Manned Spacecraft Center because I'm into all that kind of stuff, and I've written a book about that as well. And they had this simulator there where you could try and land the shuttle. Right, so you sit in this little simulator and the screen suddenly comes on, and you've got this joystick, and you've got to get the shuttle down. And there's somebody talking to you. You put a helmet on you. There's somebody talking to you and telling you your airspeed and the wind speed, and you sort of like 90 degrees heading for the ground, and you've got to pull it up, and you've got one shot because the shuttle can't go around again. It's a glider basically. But the guys in it obviously are good, aren't they? They know what they're doing, right? So I'm not a pilot. I've never flown a plane. I've been on a lot, but I've never flown one. And so I'm coming down in this shuttlecraft, and you sort of turn it, and the runway comes down, and the white lines are zooming up. And this girl in this helmet is saying I was going too fast. I had to reduce my airspeed, and they show you can see where it is. And I think when its back wheels touch, it's doing about 350 knots, about 300 miles an hour when it touches the ground. So that's, it's pretty fast. And this runway, even though it's 2 miles long or something, runs out pretty quick. And she's telling me basically that I'm going too fast. And you can't abort, there's no ejection seat. I mean, I know it's not real for me, but it is for the guys. Anyway, so I thought, well, I'm going to die. I'm going to crash. So brain kicks in, and I did something and stopped it and got down, landed. I don't know whether you know this term, but then I got a bollocking over the microphone, got told off over the microphone for doing this maneuver. And I'll tell you what that is in a minute. But I did this maneuver. And so I couldn't believe it because I'd landed $1 billion aircraft, not died, and I'm being bollocked for it because I did a maneuver that you shouldn't do. So I'm down. You turn the engines off and you do all the thing, and you're down. So I took the helmet off, and I just came out this little booth thing where this simulator is. And this girl came up to me, and she said to me, "Could I interview you?" And she was a NASA person. So I said, "Yeah." So she asked me who I was. I told her who I was and all that kind of thing. And she said to me, "Are you a pilot?" And I said, "No." She looked at me, and I said, "No, I'm not a pilot, no." Well, like I say, I've been on a lot of planes, but I've never actually flown one. I wouldn't know where to start. And she said, "But that maneuver you did, that was an experienced pilot's maneuver, and it's not a recommended maneuver." I said, "But I saved the orbiter. I'm down, And she said, "Yeah, and all this." Anyway, I'll tell you what I did. When back in 1981, I think it was, when the second shuttle mission went up, the pilot was called Joe Engel. The commander was Joe Engel, and Dick Trulley with the crew. Now, what he did, what Joe Engel did, because he's a test pilot, and he was actually going to go to the moon on Apollo 17, but he was bumped by the community to get a geologist on board, so he didn't go to the moon. So he must be pretty good. He must know what he's doing. And he landed this $1 billion orbiter, no problem. But what he did, if you watch the film, when he touches down, he does what they call flaring. He pulls a stick back and the wings go up. It's like birds. Birds put their wings down, the flaps down to catch the pressure. And he stopped it. Now, he's a test pilot and he knows what he's doing. But when I was going in too fast, I remembered this. So I thought, well, I'm going to die. So I just pulled the stick back and lifted the wings. And it worked. And I stopped. And I got bollocked for landing the shuttle. That's my story. I got a bollocking for that. I'm the only civilian to land the space shuttle and get a bollock as well.
Well, that kind of reminds me of, like when my kids do something really stupid and they survive, and then I yell at them and tell them that I'm going to kill them for doing that. It kind of reminds me of that, just a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, look, in the break, I found something for you. I told you I did those comics from when I was 14.
Yes.
Let me see. There's one.
Oh, goodness. Let me put you on the big screen. Very good. Wow.
Bit water there. And there's another one.
That's amazing.
This is probably the best one.
And the fact that you still have those.
Yes, they're all inked and coloured inside.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that?
Yes, I can. Have you ever thought about maybe republishing them and just saying, this is my really early work?
Yeah. Well, what I've done is I've updated the character, the Black Diamond, and that's something else I'm trying to work on as well. That's a cartoon strip on that. Not a cartoon strip, a regular strip on that one, but I've not got the time to draw it. So I might write, do an illustrated book about that. Because I've got what I think is a really good story on it. So, but he's just basically a superhero, But it's very, very Kirby. If you look at that, it's like Kirby, isn't it? I mean, Kirby through and through. It's not very good, but got this. Look at that colouring. How rubbish is that? Look at it. But I was only 14, so it's pretty good.
Kudos to you. So now tell us about, now you've got another book here, Rapa Nui. Now this is for your travels?
Yeah. Another story behind that is that when I was at secondary school, I don't know this grade thing, I'd be about 12, 13, we had an English teacher called Mr. Clarkson. And he introduced us to a guy called Thor Heyerdahl, who was a Norwegian explorer, and he went to Easter Island in 1955, which is Rapa Nui is Easter Island. Rapa Nui is the real name, the local name. And ever since then, I mean, everybody else was bored to death with this story, but ever since then, I wanted to go to Easter Island and look at those giant monoliths that are there, the giant statues that are there. And I didn't know this till I started researching, but there are over 800 of them. I thought there was probably 3, but it's always been in the back of my mind. And then a while back, when I was single, I had a bit of money, so I thought, sod it, I'll go. I'm never going to go otherwise. So I went there. I went to South America, to Chile, and went over to Easter Island. I made an extensive diary while I was there. I took over 1,000 photographs and about 6 hours of film. And I wanted to. I was going to make a documentary about it, but the film's not good. The footage isn't good enough. It's not. I should have taken a professional camera, but I didn't. But anyway, I could still write about it, and I've got my diary, and I did a lot of research on it, and I wrote the whole thing around and produced the book as well, designed the book, and put all my photographs in it, and a couple of my my piece of artwork I did while I was there. But yeah, it's if you can ever go to Easter Island, I'd say go. It's an amazing place. It's weird. It's very strange, but it's these things are that you can't turn around without bumping into three of these things. But I don't get the. It's like the pyramids. I don't get this dragging 2-ton rocks up along logs.
Well,
I just don't believe that sort of stuff.
Well, if there was a destination that you haven't been to, where would you go next for your next personal journey with photographs and the diary?
Well, there's a few places I'd like to go to. Egypt, see the pyramids, but you can't go down there these days. It's armed guards, and I can do without that. I'd like to go to Machu Picchu in South America. I'd like to go to the Great Wall of China. I'd like to go and see Ayers Rock in Australia, right, and then that big rock in the centre. But obviously, at the moment, you can't go anywhere, can you? So, I'll tell you a place I've never been to, and that's Africa. I could have gone to Morocco one time, and I didn't, and I could have gone to South Africa, but I didn't, mainly because of troubles and things like that. Because I'm not one for, ever since I got arrested in Iraq, I tend to stay away from places. Yeah, got Saddam's finest pulled me off the plane and kept me for 3 hours and was sticking a AK-47 in my stomach and screaming in my face, and my God, scary.
And that must have been frightening.
Well, the thing was, I'll tell you what. I think what I know what they were doing, because they're screaming at me in Arabic, and you don't understand any words of Arabic. If people shout things at you in German or French, you can generally get the gist of it. But as you know, Arabic is totally different. Anyway, what happened was 12 hours after I left, they finally let me go. 12 hours after I left was when the Iraq-Iran war started. And I was in Baghdad airport, and the Iranians bombed Baghdad airport 12 hours after I left.
Oh my goodness.
I went on to India. Went to India for 6 weeks, and when I came back, I was supposed to go through Iraq again, and I was really worried that they stopped me once. Anyway, the pilot said they'd been rerouted to Kuwait, which obviously is next door to Iraq, but and used to be part of Iraq. But anyway, so I was a bit worried then. But I found out when I was there that the Iraqi forces, as it were, had arrested some American guys who they thought were CIA or something like that. Now, whether they were or not, I don't know. I didn't meet them. I don't know who they were, but I think they may have thought I may have been the same, but I wasn't. But they let me go, and that was pretty scary.
Wow.
So I keep away from those places, really.
Yeah, I've always been. I'm kind of a homebody, so I'm kind of an armchair traveler. I'm pretty fine with Google Earth.
Well, the best place, if I could live anywhere apart from where I live now, because it is great in England, I'd live in New York. I've been to New York about 12 times. I've been to America 20 odd times. I love it. I love the place. People think I'm American on Facebook. Lots of people think I'm an American. I don't know why. Maybe I should be, or maybe I am. I don't know. But I think New York's. I don't know if you've been to New York, but New York's a brilliant place. I love it. I love the way it's dancing all the time. The walls are moving, aren't they? It's just brilliant. I love it. I did go last time I went to. I got in this taxi and I said to this guy, and he was sort of Arabic, Asian, whatever you call them. I said to him, "Can you take me to John Lennon's house?" I'd been before and I know where it is, but I said, "Can you take me to John Lennon's house?" And he said, "Who's John Lennon?" I said, "Right, how do you explain who John Lennon was?" You know what I mean? And I said to him, he lived at the Dakota. He was murdered. He lived at the Dakota. He was in the Beatles. And this guy said, "Who are the Beatles?"
Oh.
So I said, "Yeah." So I said, "The Dakota building, 72nd Street, wherever it is." "No, I don't know where that is." I said, "Oh, forget it." And I just got out and got another one, and he knew. He was a New Yorker. He knew where it was. I just don't think you can work in a city as a taxi driver and not know where everywhere is. Yes. If you went to London, and you wouldn't get that. Mm-hmm. That's your job, isn't it?
Shocking.
You know, can you take me here? No, don't know where you mean.
That's crazy. My goodness. Yeah, and then
I tell you what, I could be a taxi driver in New York, couldn't I? I know where everything is.
you probably could. I don't know that you want to be.
Not really.
And the traffic.
Yeah, crazy.
My New York story, because I used to live in upstate New York, and between school, we used to perform in New York City, and just traveling and visiting my dad, and he would buy lunch every once in a while. We would, the one time I was in the city with a friend of mine, and we were just walking around, stopping around the city, and we caught a taxi cab in the morning. And, you just think New York City's got millions of people in it. What are the chances? Later on that afternoon, we hear beep, beep, hey, ladies. And we turn around, it was the same cab driver. He's like, are you going to need a lift anywhere? We're like, holy crap. I mean, it was just the wildest thing. Like, what are the chances that would happen? But I mean, my experiences in the city, just stopping around, have always been great. I know in England you call it the tube, right? We have our subways, and it was so funny because I had no problem ever riding the subway. And my friend who was from England, which I know that she would ride the tubes and stuff, she sat there like a mouse. Her eyes were so big, and she looked frightened. And I was sitting across from her, and I wasn't paying attention to her at first. And I looked over at her, and she looked so scared because this whole idea of New York City was this rough and tumble city. And I laughed, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I would mug you." Relax.
Well, when I first went to New York, I was on the subway, and this, it's strange. This guy came up to me, this American guy, and he said, he must have obviously heard me speaking, and he said, "You're from England, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Do you know what I'm going to do before I die?" And I thought, "Oh no, what? Shoot me, And he said, "I'm going to go over to England, and I'm going to teach you all how to speak." And then laughed and got off. And I sort of collapsed in my seat, I thought he was going to say, "I'm going to shoot you all," It was,
oh my goodness.
No, that was in the 70s, so it was a bit rougher in the 70s. I think they've cleaned it up a lot, haven't they? But it's a fantastic place. It's brilliant. One remarkable thing about the guy, the guys who sell DVDs on the street. One guy had, I think, it was the second Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Was that the one with Dr. Octopus in? He had the DVD, and it was only opened. I went to the opening as it closed, the theatre, at 8 o'clock that night, and he already had the DVD on his little rug.
Wow.
It wasn't even out yet. So I thought, there's an entrepreneur,
Throw back to your 12-year-old self.
Yeah. So it was great. No, I love it.
Now, we've only got a few more minutes left, and I would love for people to follow you. So where can people follow you on social media and all that good stuff? And again, I will share your Amazon page so that people know where to find your books and your magazine.
Thanks. I'm building a new website at the moment because it was hijacked or hacked or whatever you call it. So I won't tell you what the name is because you don't want to go there with what's on it. Lost me a bit of work, actually. People dialing up and saying, "What the hell is this?" It's, anyway. So I'm building a new website. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I've got Comics Unlimited is Comics Unlimited Magazine at gmail.com. So you could talk to me on there if you wanted to. I'll get in touch on there, and then hopefully I'll come back on again when I've got my website up.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so we've got Comics Unlimited at gmail.com, and that is where they can contact
Comics Unlimited Magazine at gmail.com. That's just an email address. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. Twitter is GBF15, I think that's me. They'll find me. They'll find it. People find things, don't they? But I don't do Instagram and stuff like that. I've got too much to do to be messing around with it. You know,
Really? With all of the projects and things.
I should do, really. I should. But it's like, you know, it's like, what do I do? Do I get a presence on Instagram, or do I finish writing a book? So I'd rather finish writing the book.
Social media is kind of a time suck.
Yeah. I mean, I see all these people making, well, they say they're making lots of money on Twitter and things, and I can't work out how to do it. You know, at comics and this kind of stuff.
I'm only on Twitter to troll, so.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. So you see what other people are doing.
Well, so one of the questions that we always ask on Geeks Fake before we end the show is, if you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Move to New York when you're 15.
15?
Yeah, because, listen, you know George Perez, the artist, George Perez? He's pretty good. But he had my life. He's 6 months older than I am. And he lived in New York. And when I was going to art college, he was going to the Marvel offices and talking to Kirby and Joe Stinnett and Stan Lee and getting all that advice. Now, I'm not saying I'm as good an artist as he is, because I'm not. But I think you get, if you live in New York, you get a leg up to do that.
Well, you're a lot closer than being across the pond, that's for sure.
Yeah. So there you go.
And is there anything else that you can share with us before we close out the hour?
Yeah, Comics Unlimited 3 is out in November, so check into that one. There's nothing really else. There's a lot of things. Oh yeah, I'll show you this. I do children's books as well.
Let's put you on the big screen here. So the little green tree, yes, I did see that on your Amazon page. Can you tell us a little bit about that really quickly?
Yeah, the idea came. It's about a little tree, and he lives on the Grand Canyon, and he doesn't have his shadow, and all the trees around him have shadows, and they all tease him because he can't see into the canyon. And I got that idea when I was flying over the Grand Canyon in a small aircraft, and I saw a clump of trees, and the one at the front didn't appear to have a shadow because all the other shadows went over his head. And my little guy developed, and he couldn't see into the canyon, and the others wouldn't tell him because they're all mean. It's about bullying, really. And I won't tell you what happens, but he gets to see in the canyon. That's what it's about. So it's all illustrated by me as well, and everything. There we go.
Very good.
There he is. He's asleep there.
So I have to ask you, Glenn, when it comes to the creative process, because you've got the whole spectrum going, what would be your favorite, your ultimate favorite?
In terms of writing, it would be either my Rapa Nui book or the book I wrote about my dad's D-Day.
Mm-hmm.
Drawing, that's...
Put that up here. That's 8 seconds, yes?
Yeah. I've got a piece of the artwork from that. Whether you can see that. Can you see that? No, hang on, just a minute. There we go.
There you go.
You got that?
Yes, I do. That's watercolor and ink?
It's just ink.
Okay.
It's just that there's always a story behind everything. There's a story behind that illustration, because I was doing that one and I didn't like it at all, so I just threw all that coloured ink on it. Because I thought it was messed up anyway, because I didn't finish it, and it turned out to be one of the better ones with all that colour on it. So yeah, so it would be a toss between Rapa Nui and 8 seconds for my writing. And as for artwork, there's too many pieces to get a favourite, I think.
So if you were to give a young creator a piece of advice, not looking back and giving yourself any advice, but somebody who's kind of breaking into publishing or photography or filmmaking, what could you tell them, like where to start?
I don't know about where to start, but that would be with themselves. But don't let anybody put you off. Try and be unique. Everything's been done 15 times, but you can still put a spin on it, and write for yourself and draw for yourself. Don't be thinking, oh, people won't like this and blah blah blah, because I saw a great meme a while back of a little cat saying to another one, I'm not going to write a book because nobody will read it. And he said, how many will read it if you don't write it? Mm-hmm. So just do it. Don't be put off by people.
That fits beautifully into what we were speaking about very early on. We write a lot of times it's therapeutic, and when we decide that it's okay to share that with the world, there's something about that.
I would also add, read a lot, read different things. I read anything from JFK assassination to Walking on the Moon to Stephen King to Arthur Clarke, science fiction. Football books, sports books. I read everything. I read the Cornflake Packet. Just read everything you can, and study. But always remember that, because I think everybody goes through this, because I certainly did. You try and draw like people, you try and write like people, but in the end, your own style will come through, and that's what you're looking for. It might take you a while to get there, but it will come, and you will suddenly realise that you can't draw as well as Jack Kirby, but he can't draw as well as you either. I mean, I know he's not here now, but you understand what I mean. And you should pursue it, and you should try not to be discouraged, which is a real big one. People will just say, what are you doing? What is this? Don't worry about that, because they don't know. And if they had anything about them, they wouldn't say that. They would encourage. So just get on with it. Don't watch that TV thing tonight. Go and write a story.
Wonderful. And that is a great way to end this. Thank you so much, Glenn, for being with us today. We're going to close up the program. For anybody who's listening, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and follow Glenn. We'll have the links where you can follow him in our show notes. On that note, have a great evening.
Thanks for allowing me on the show.
You've been tuning in to Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Lochran, a Geek Insider presentation. Subscribe to the Geek Insider podcast on your favorite listening app and sign up for the newsletter on our website. We also have advertising opportunities through the website, podcast, and newsletter. For details, contact advertising at geekinsider.com. This has been a Geek Insider production. Thank you for listening.